It would make our lives so much easier if the state would say, Vermont is a cell phone free state.
When I started here, phones were not an issue, but it just kind of crept in until it completely took over.
In the past, it was just so much time and energy spent on put the phone away, give me the phone.
It was just constant policing and constant enforcement and a battle, just a constant struggle.
There were lots of power struggles over phones going away and things like that, and it was a time suck from instruction and an ability to work and things like that.
And Linda and I are each parents of students who moved through the Harwood halls over the years, and so we've learned a lot from our students, and my kids were very honest with me about what kids are doing with these, in addition to all the social things that Linda referred to, but just the academic integrity it was that was happening from kids, taking copies of tests and sending them to their friends, or texting and doing meetups, whether it's to exchange substances or whatever, and cyberbullying. And
it wasn't finding the note that was passed around the room. It was looking at the kid, just looking down for 1 second, and okay, now there's a group chat going on, and the whole class is paying attention to that and not what we're doing.
I work one-on-one with students, and for years it's been one-on-one with the phone or the earbuds and the music. It's like, take the earbuds out. Take the earbuds out. You're not filming. Are you filming? The distraction of the phone dinging. I got to see what's on the phone. The phone's dinging, and you know that you had 5 minutes of real attention in 35 minutes of time with them.
They started to lose their self-control, right? So it was just more and more of like, can I just use my phone? Or we just get to that point of like doing activities or trying to get an activity going, and there was just more apathetic behavior of just slower to transition.
Like, it's just not appropriate, no matter how old your student is, for them to learn the passing of a loved family member while they're sitting in the middle of their math class, right? With no structure from the teacher, who all of a sudden has a crying kid in class and is like, what's going on? I work with a large ADHD, other health impairment kind of caseload, and those students have lots of distractible things going on in their brain, and the phone's hit of dopamine would make them feel better in that second, but it did nothing to help them grow and sustain in learning.
So we had sort of not given up, but we were just losing the struggle in recent years, and they were becoming very impactful, you could tell. And so when the whole school agreed to go full cell phone free, it just made it so much easier for us to have this good environment that we have now. So it was I was very pleased.
It started in a faculty meeting and then grew into many more dialogues and meetings amongst staff and also then students. What are the things that will most move us towards our goals of building a community of belonging and having challenge and rigor for all students? When we kind of looked at all the data, it was like, this is the base of the pyramid that we need, is just engagement. And the biggest barriers to engagement right now are like our attendance, which is always a challenge and has been a challenge like kind of nationwide, but also and cell phones. And that barrier, just like literal barrier between students and what's happening in the world around them.
Walking in the hallways, people were always glued to their devices and not clued into each other. In lunch, you would see kids looking at their phones and not really talking to each other. It became really clear that it was a social barrier for kids too. And then we know that it was a social infringement for a lot of kids, that kids were treating each other very poorly online because that's easy to do. You don't have to look somebody in the eye when you say something cruel.
Then what really made me jump on board with the banning cell phones after this problem grew and grew and grew is the way that kids were attacking each other, and so it was the anxiety that I was seeing these kids feeling, not knowing. And I can't even imagine what that would be like as a young kid, to know that, because you already think everyone's talking about you anyway, but to see kids on phones and being like, are they talking about me? What are they writing? Do they have a picture of me? Did they take a picture of me when I wasn't looking? You know, there was just so many different layers, and noticing that most of our big problems that we're having discipline-wise were related to the phone. And a lot of the stuff was happening outside, but because the phone was coming in, it was brought in, and then it became the school's problem.
Knowing people had their phones, and I think there was that fear and anxiety base of like, well, I don't want to try that because they might get a picture or a video of me, which then is that going to be that long-term uncomfortable feeling of what are they going to do with it, right? And you know, all that online cyberbullying, stuff like that, and with social media.
I think beyond everything, we also became really concerned about their well-being. That is really, I think, what put the rubber to the road here, is we had that conversation and we were just finally decided, this is what's best for our kids. You know, it's not just about the classroom. It's not just about, it's about separating them from this device that is really pulling them in.
Like, okay, it can't just be classes, it has to be during the whole school day, and then how are we going to do that, and what is that going to look like, and each next piece involved a lot of discussion and consensus building, but it from the very beginning was like full consensus as a staff that was a change that we needed to make.
We as a group really came to the decision that we had to do it, but we had to do it collectively, and we had to do it using the nuclear option. That it wasn't going to be, you know, oh, okay, now everybody's going to make the kids put their phones away, because it wasn't. We tried that for 3 years.
We tried having it no phones during instructional time.
We tried that for at least 3 years. I would say, and don't quote me on the years, but I know we tried it for quite a while. And it just was too hard. It was a fight. Teachers just, it was exhausting.
Our approach was to like build on this consensus we had as a staff. We had some dialogues with students in the community, but it wasn't around should we do this? It was like, how can we support everyone in doing this?
There were some kids before that we had this in place that would write to their parents all day. Like, and whenever they had like a anxious social situation happen, the first thing they would do is text their mom or their dad.
Being in constant contact with a parent during the school day is not necessary, and like it's actually better to build your independence and not have that constant contact. And like if there's an emergency, like certainly we have phones and we have ways that we want to help you be able to solve that, but like we also need to kind of redefine what is an emergency. And sometimes you can wait, and sometimes that can get figured out at the end of the day.
One of the big components was families. You know, I remember one of my own students' mom being in a group with me and her expressing, I think this is gonna be harder on me than my kid. Kids can still email, parents can email, they can call the school.
We and our parents and their grandparents all made it through World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, nuclear raids, and all this other stuff, 9/11, without having each parent call each student. Like, trust the school, you know? It would actually be more disruptive if there's actually something horrible that I won't even say, and there's a million phones and buzzes.
There are some kids who need their phones for medical reasons. And there always will be, and they never wanted their peers to see that anyway, so their phones aren't out and problematic at all. But they have them, and they're doing their job.
There was a lot of dialogue with staff. Students had a certain amount of input. There were opportunities for the community to have input. That, I think, just sort of smoothed the water.
We started the year really ready to have to lean in as a whole building to supporting students without having their phones and supporting families that were struggling, and largely the things we were worried about didn't materialize.
We were biting our nails a little bit. We knew it was going to be upsetting. We knew it was going to cause upheaval for kids. But, you know, I think we were at the end of the first week when we were really already seeing that it was okay, and it was better than okay. You walked into the cafeteria and it was loud, you know, and you went into the library and kids were playing games with each other or doing puzzles or actually reading books or, you know, all of those sorts of things. And so the environment here became much more just vibrant, is the best way to describe it. And I think now most kids see the value of it.
Just so much more present with each other, with us, in the room. You know, it's just, it's a whole different kind of headspace that everybody seems to be in.
And like, I remember just the beginning of this first semester is like, I'm back to teaching. It feels good.
It's changed everything. I was going to retire at the end of this year because I'm turning 65 pretty soon. But I'm not going to because it's just totally different. It's totally fun.
Wow.
I think students are more engaged. It's forced us to be more engaged. I enjoy it 150% more. I love it. I think it's made me a better teacher also because I'm not a police officer most of the time. 12 people don't have to go to the bathroom every class. Because what was happening is people would, at least some, text each other and be like, go to the bathroom in 10 minutes. And they'd be like, okay, I'll see you then. They're like, can I go to the bathroom?
I think it's the best thing having the phones locked down from 7:30 to 3:30.
It's so much easier to do the jobs we thought we were hired to do that we have really been struggling to do for the last few years.
And the transition from phones all over the place to no phones at the start of the year, it was as seamless as as possible. I could not imagine it. And I will say that I try to get out to the hallway at least twice per day just for the passing and marvel at the kids actually interacting again and you know, face to face as opposed to every second person walking around with the phone like that. So it's been astounding, and I've been doing that all year long and haven't seen any violations. I'm sure there's a few violations here or there. So, but the lunchrooms are just more conversational, interactive as are between class, and then the kids are staying engaged in class or at least not being distracted by their phones. So I'm very, very happy with the policy. I wish this had been put in place years ago, as it should have been. So.
And the student engagement is just so much higher that it's hard not to feel better as an educator because the kids are actually in class and engaged.
Feels like I'm back to teaching, as opposed to like herding slow cats. It's more of like, yeah, it's just a big group of kids and, they're talking. And that's the classic old school social emotional learning of, first person, right?
Nice.
So getting that social radar naturally. So it's been fun.
I think the biggest dynamic is there's no more like power struggle or just conflict.
I'm genuinely with kids now. I feel like when we are together, we are together. We're fully with each other.
I mean, what we were creating before was the effect of ADHD on every single kid. The kids that actually are or do have ADHD, you can recognize it now. It's not like it's washed in with everybody else in the behaviors that we're seeing because of the phones, the distraction. It's like we are actually able to hone in on like this kid that really needs some support. And the ones that had ADHD, they were just gone. There was like the other ones could like pick up bits and pieces of what was happening in class, but those kids were just there was nothing.
The things we used to worry about with discipline are still there, but we don't have to worry about this extra thing and like what are they looking at, and and we have all the other resources for them. We have the calculators they can use. They don't need to be online to use a calculator. We have the Chromebooks if they're typing. They don't need a phone for that. Whatever it may be, we have a backup. They can use the phone in the office if they need to call home. In fact, if it's an emergency, we have phones in the classroom they can use.
100% of them have Chromebooks, and even the Chromebooks can be a problem because kids aren't necessarily on the tab you want them to be on. But when you have a device that's a Chromebook and a device that's a phone, then you have a lot more problems.
We still have technology around, and actually even that technology is still a problem, but we still work on it. But it's just silly to say that we're going to give you this situation that almost nobody has the self-control to really manage, even adults, spoiler alert, and we're going to expect you at 12 or 13 to somehow have experiences that are going to teach you how to have enough self-control to control it for the long-term benefit of like your learning. They just must not spend that much time around classrooms with 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds if they think that's a learning experience to have a phone, you know, because it just isn't. That's not the way anybody learns. I think it's not a valuable learning experience to have a phone around just sabotaging your day all the time.
Do you feel like you're better able to do your job as a teacher?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. It's just that, I mean, a phone is an addictive device. It's made to be addictive. It's particularly addictive to teenagers. Take away the source of the addiction and lots of behaviors change. It's that simple.
If our goal is to teach them how to responsibly use a phone as an adult, like actually allowing their brain to develop properly and them to be building these social connections without a phone is the way that we're teaching them how to responsibly do lots of things as adults. And it would be irresponsible for us to allow their phone addiction to block all of those other high school and middle school experiences.
It's been a really nice shift, and I think parents are noticing it too. I think they notice at home that the conversations are different with the kids. We wouldn't want to sell it to other teachers as it's this elixir that's going to make your life so much easier. I mean, it's not going to be easier, but you're going to get back to the fun of teaching, because it's like you get to really interact. The kids are they're locked in, they're with you, and it's like you get to watch their growth instead of having it stolen away by this thing that you have no control over. It used to be like, well, here's an extension you can do if you're done, if you want to, and they'd be like, I think I'll just check my texts, you know, or I think I'll go on Instagram and just reel for a while, you know. And now it's like, here's an extension, and that's the only thing you have to do, so they do it. And then it's like they're actually starting to engage and get more excited about the content.
I think it was just more lack of motivation with it. There was more, I think, more of the mindset of like, what do I need to just get a proficient score, right? As opposed to, oh, how can I get an advanced?
Do you think the taxpayers of Harwood are getting better bang for their educational dollars this year?
Absolutely. It's interesting. We looked at some data at our staff meeting, and it's correlational. It's not causational. But scores are up. Classroom mismanagement issues are down. There's a lot of data that's starting to say this has really helped kids. And kids themselves have reported, I'm studying more, I'm paying attention more, I'm less distracted, I'm doing better.
I don't know why as a state we wouldn't do it and remove some of those local barriers of making us have to be, you know, there was a point where it kind of felt like we were pushing out against the community and the community was pushing back, and the students felt like they were being punished in mass versus, oh, only one person really needs it. The more we can come to this is good health practice and good educational practice. That is beneficial to the entire state. And if our data outcomes for this current year reflect statewide, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Schools love data, right? I think we have the data. Like, we just went over it in the staff meeting, and like just the proficiency scores and advanced scores, you know, that just 0.2 score improvement, right? Every subject. So that alone is influence, I think. But for me, I care more about the way kids are able to socialize and be physically active to help support their emotional, because as teenagers, anxiety is a thing, right? But with the online stuff, it's even worse. So like, try to get back to that chance where they don't have to worry about what's going on, and they can just be here and now to focus on them with other people to try and make new friendships and like see where that can go. And that's what it's all about, being a kid, you know, young adult, so that they can support their adulthood, right? Making friendships and trying new things.
I wish we had done it sooner, but I'm thankful that we've done it. I'm thankful that the legislature is considering this, because it is truly what's best for kids' well-being. And I think it's also helping kids be able to develop the social skills they need to be out in the world, because they can't go to work and have their cell phone out, you know, and if they do, they'll lose their job. They can't communicate via texts, you know, with their customers or their clients or their team. And so as the career educator here, we're helping kids to build those skills to be able to have one-on-one personal conversations and communications with each other, which is really important.
If you could talk to the legislators who are considering this, what would you say to them?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Like, quit messing around. Like, just do it. It's not hard. It's easy. You know, just do it.
It would make our lives so much easier if the state would say Vermont is a cell phone free state.
And I firmly believe this is what's best for our youth. That's separating them from their phones for a period of time during education helps them to be better students, to be better humans, to be with each other, and actually to be less anxious. And sometimes you have to make that decision because it's really what's best, like we did. Our kids were not happy with us when we made this decision. We knew it would be unpopular, but we made the decision because we knew what was best for kids. Sometimes that has to drive you more than, will this cost me favor with the public? Sometimes you've got to put the kids at the center. And if you want to put the kids at the center, separate them from their phones.
All the data that we've seen and the connections we've seen, for me, mean it should be a priority across the state, because it's something that every student in the state deserves to be able to focus on school when they're in school and not have this device that's constantly distracting them. And for us, I think the biggest win was taking that battle away from teachers and saying this isn't something that every teacher needs to fight and address in their classroom at the beginning of class every day. Instead, it's something that we're starting at the threshold at the beginning of the day. Until the end of the day, we've taken that off of teachers. And what the state could do with legislation is take that decision off of schools and not have it be a battle or a thing that every school individually needs to be out on a limb doing, and instead it being something that we're doing collectively as a whole state. And then every school's figuring out how to do it in a way that works for them, but it's something that we're all agreeing across the board is really important for our students.
Thank you so much.